Okay, thank you. Welcome to the P&Z Subcommittee Annual Regs discussion on today's the 17th, 10/17/2024. All right, we'll turn it over to you to do what we need to do on the face thing there. And, I get confused with that. Then what we figure we'd be done in a half an hour.
Well, we have up to 2 hours on the one topic. Oh, here comes Randy. That's good. So just for the sake of when I do the minutes later, let me do a brief attendance. John B. Lenke is acting as chair tonight. I see Ray Williams, Russell Robin, Ryan Knoyer, Randy Blackmer, and Cindy Dunn. I do see one member of the general public attending. And we may see more members coming in later. I will call them out as I see them. And I'll go to share screen. So give me a second, guys.
One more thing I'd like to say on that is anybody in the that's on the Zoom, that's the public and everything, if they want to leave a message, they can leave it, but we will not answer any questions or anything because this is a subcommittee among the commissioners only, and we're only discussing the regs, just so they'll know.
Very good, sir. All right, let me get to share screen here. I gotta switch some screens around. Oh, here we go. You guys got that?
Yep.
All right, just gonna move some stuff around on my screen. All right, so this is the last topic in the first go round of the draft, which was the novel proposed possible section 275-15.7 lighting standards for development, non-residential agricultural. Here comes Alvin.
Do you have to hang on a minute? Kaiser's on the phone with me. She says he's having a hard time connecting. So
okay, I can wait.
Zoom link should be live. I'm going to put myself on mute and you continue on, Tara.
Okay, sounds good, JBL. All right, so 275-15.7 lighting standards for development, non-residential agricultural. Just as a reminder of why this is included, earlier this year, I want to say it was back even as early as February, there was there was a template for model zoning regulations and or local ordinances that were distributed through the planner's listserv regarding dark skies. So to be clear, I don't particularly have a dog in this fight, but I do know that we have had some citizens who have referenced a preference for protecting dark skies occasionally in public meetings. It is definitely oh, here comes Kai's.
Yep.
It is definitely a part of the Last Green Valleys mission, and we are in the Last Green Valley National Heritage Corridor. So I figured I would try to write something up for you guys to consider, and make whatever choices you want. Now you'll notice here that I've indicated non-residential agricultural, and you'll also notice that there are some comments from Cindy. I also will build on Cindy's comments in a second. Now, the reason that I limited it to non-residential agricultural in this first pass, in fact, I should actually amend that to say non-residential, non-agricultural for clarity, as I think that is because it is my observation of the members of this commission as it currently stands, that there has not been a lot of appetite for adding new regulations that refer to people's residential properties. So this seemed like a good place to start, was with essentially commercial properties, mixed-use properties, and multifamily properties of 4 or more units. So as usual, I'll read through. I'll start with Cindy's initial comment, and this again goes back to when I first distributed this. The section appeared, in her opinion at the time, appears to be well written. At this time, have no comments, but would like the commission members to know that I do have complaints on residential lights that are bright, intrusive on neighbors, and left on all night. And need to explore what are our options on residential outdoor lighting. I will add to that, early this week, we did have a resident come in, specifically asking about adding either zoning regulations or a town ordinance, which obviously is not the jurisdiction of this commission, specifically to address residential lighting. I would expect that you would see that resident coming in at your October meeting. I do not have anything prepared based on that, but just as something to keep in the back of your mind. Cindy, do you want to add to that before I dive into reading this stuff out?
Yes, I've had 2 residential complaints in the past year. If I've had others, they're written down someplace, which I would have a hard time finding. But one was turned off just recently because somebody spoke to the homeowner. And the other one, I believe, is still going on. I don't know if when we get down to the commercial part, I have had a complaint today of Webster Variety, and said that the light is horrific at night. So I told them I will take a ride out there at night and take a check it. But we can do something about that with our current regulations. But if we can make it tougher, that would be great. So that's my comments.
All righty. So I will read through, and I'll read through the whole thing, and then since we've got so much time on one topic, and then we can go back and introduce comments or whatever. So lighting standards for development, non-residential, non-agricultural. A, intent. The intent of these regulations is to set specific exterior lighting standards for business, mixed use, and multifamily properties of 4 or more units in order to reduce light pollution and conserve energy while still maintaining sufficient illumination for public safety. Light pollution has been shown to contribute to wildlife mortality, reduced visibility of the night sky, and adverse effects on human health. B, applicability. 1, these regulations apply to the installation of exterior lighting fixtures at commercial, industrial, mixed use, and multifamily properties of 4 or more units. 2, residential properties of fewer than 4 units and agricultural properties are exempt from these requirements. 3, lighting standards for subdivisions are articulated separately in the Town of Thompson Subdivision Regulations, Article 4, Section Q, and Appendix E. C, submittal requirements. 1, applications for properties meeting the description of 275-15.7B1 shall include the following details on the required site plan. A, the location of all exterior lighting fixtures. B, a description of each exterior lighting fixture. Exterior lighting fixtures shall conform to the standards shown in Appendix E of the Town of Thompson Subdivision Regulations. C, the plan shall demonstrate how lighting has been designed and located to prevent light trespass on neighboring properties. Subsection D, exterior lighting standards. 1, exterior lighting for properties meeting the description of 275-15.7 B1 shall conform to the following standards. A, all exterior lighting shall comply with the requirements of the Connecticut State Building Code, which incorporates the Light Pollution Controls Amendment to the International Building Code, Section 2703, requiring all exterior luminaires to be full cutoff with limited exceptions, and the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code rules on exterior lighting controls, C 407.2.7. B, when mounted, the light emitting part of the exterior light fixture shall emit light exclusively downward. C, direct light from the luminaire shall not be visible at any point along the property line at a height greater than 5 feet. D, lighting fixtures for building security or any display purposes shall be 1, top downward, not upward or sideways, and 2, full cutoff or fully recessed, flush mounted. E, the mounting height for parking lot lighting shall be 20 feet or less, except that any parking lot light located 50 feet or less from an adjacent property line shall have a mounting height of 16 feet or less. F, at its brightest illumination level as depicted on the manufacturer's specification sheet, no exterior light shall exceed the level of illumination as contained in the recommended practices of the Illuminating Engineering Society. G, parking lots, sidewalks, and other areas accessible to pedestrians and automobiles on properties with 4 or more residential units, mixed-use development and or non-resident, oh, that's got to be non again, and or non-residential or non-agricultural development shall be illuminated with uniform and adequate intensity to the following standards. 1, average horizontal maintained illumination shall not be more than 3 foot candle. 2, maximum to minimum ration. That's cribbed. I don't know if that's a cribbed typo, if that's correct construction. Maximum to minimum ration shall be between 6:1 and 10:1, but not more than 10:1. H, photocells or photo controls shall be used to extinguish all outdoor lighting automatically when sufficient daylight is available. I, all exterior lighting shall be fully extinguished or be motion sensor operated by 11 p.m. or from 1 hour after the close of business until 1 hour before the business reopens, whichever is earlier, or the wattage output for the exterior lights shall be reduced by at least 75%, or a motion sensor shall turn off exterior lights after 15 minutes of no activity. J, all exterior lighting fixtures necessary for security purposes shall be activated by motion sensor devices that turn the light off after 15 minutes of no activity. K, all exterior lighting fixtures necessary for off-hours access shall be activated by motion sensor controls. L, all light sources shall have a correlated color temperature, CCT, of 2700 K or less as rated on the manufacturer's specifications sheet. M, for areas adjacent to waterways or designated open space, only lights with a CCT rating of 2000 K or less shall be used. N, the following exterior lighting uses are prohibited. 1, strips of light intended to outline or highlight a structure, whether composed of linear light tubes or a sequence of individual illumination sources. 2, light sources that oscillate or vary in intensity or color to the degree that the modulation is perceptible to the human eye. 3, lasers. 4, luminous light tubes. 5, searchlights. 6, illumination of entire buildings. Facade illumination shall be limited to security lighting or lighting of specific architectural features, for example, entryways. 7, floodlights that project above the horizontal plane. O, the following exterior lighting uses are exempt from these regulations. 1, critical lighting used by police, fire, emergency services, or other public safety agencies. 2, municipal, state, federal, or other government buildings. And 3, traditional, temporary, seasonal, holiday lighting from November to January. So that is it, guys. Go ahead, Ray.
How about businesses that have lighted flagpoles? A flagpole is a structure, I would think.
That is a good point. I will say that I did crib this directly from the templates, and I don't remember seeing that. Well, I probably would have included it regardless. So you're suggesting that that should be listed in the exemptions?
Correct.
All right, let me, I think that's reasonable. Let me just make the note here.
And Ray's got a good point, Tara, because the light for the flagpole to show the flag at night has to point upward from the ground, but it has to just be, it's centered to the flag, not widespread. But just to let you know, because a few of my friends of mine, they're in the military, you know, that's the only allowable to let a flag fly at night, is it has to have a light on it, but concentrated just to the flag only.
Yep, no, it's a good observation, and it would not have occurred to me, so I'm glad that you brought it up. Cindy, I see your hand.
Yes, it should be from October to January, because people are really decorating with Halloween lights now.
You know, I thought the same thing. So I guess great minds think alike there.
Okay.
Well, you know how I am about Halloween.
Yes, I know.
Halloween is the big holiday now. No more Christmas.
So I don't know if you need to make a specific date in January, because are you including all of January, or do people just know January 1st, your light's gonna go out?
Well, no, it wouldn't be January 1st, Cindy, because Little Christmas, there are traditional Christmas-like holidays that extend into January, and I don't think you really lose anything by saying the entirety of the month. I mean,
Oh, no,
Go to
exactly, no.
Make it to February 1st, and that's it. It covers it.
Yeah.
Your time to take down your decorations. Can I just ask what the overall template from all this is from? I apologize if I missed that, but
yes, I can tell you generally, because I'm on my personal laptop, not my work laptop. I don't have the original template to hand, but it was a much longer template. It was 7 or 8 pages, as I recall, of sample language for zoning regulations, municipal ordinances, and more. And it was distributed by somebody who was working on it at the state level. And I apologize that I do not know what organization they were from, but it was distributed on the planners listserv, which is, you know, something that all the planners are sort of subscribed to, and they get messages back and forth on. I did think it was generally pretty well written, but because it was so extensive and meant to cover both zoning and ordinances, there was a lot that I thought was either redundant or not specific to zoning. And again, as I indicated earlier, due to the way you guys have been articulating what you prefer, I thought we should leave out the residential and agricultural. But certainly based on the feedback of Cindy and some of the other residents, I'm open to hearing more discussion on that.
no, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to suggest that we exclude that. So this is just for business, just to be clear. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's why I titled it this way: lighting standards for development, non-residential, and then for better clarity, and non-agricultural. Ray, I see your hand.
Another thing with the lights stopping in January, a lot of the restaurants that we have with outside seating, they have their, you know, like white Christmas lights around their outside seating at night. So
I think Yeah, and I think this must be what you're responding to, this letter I. Yeah,
You
I
know, we
think as
should not
long as
stop.
they're extinguished at the end of the night, it's not
Okay.
necessarily a violation, but maybe there's better clarity in here that we could add.
That's
Clarify.
another thing that just popped, thinking about it, it's, a lot of the restaurants that are doing the outside seating now, they do have them out for, the ambiance or whatever you want to call it for the, sitting outside at night.
Right, it's
But
an excellent,
if that's underneath of, having to be off when they close, then that covers that anyway. I would
yeah,
have
so
to
maybe
say.
the edit we need here is, continuous illumination from. Maybe that clarifies that.
Would it be,
Ira,
Yes, Alvin, go ahead.
just to Ray Williams' question. This is really all in Connecticut General Statute, Chapter 298, Section 16A-39. Everything you've outlined here is in statute.
Hold on, let me just drop that because I may reference the statute specifically. Per Alvin. Authorizing. Statutes. Are, say it again, Alvin.
Yeah, Chapter 298, Section 16A-39, 39.
16A-3.
39. 39.
Okay. Gotcha. Go ahead again, Ray.
So if we just add that statute, we could actually get rid of almost everything there then.
That's not necessarily clear. Frequently, the way it works with the statutes, right, is that the statutes gives the towns the authority to regulate, but it does not specify the nature of those regulations. That's how it works with almost every thing that we build regulations around, because if it was just referring to the statutes, towns wouldn't need to have their own zoning. It would just be whatever the statutes say. So the statutes are what give you the authority to regulate at the local level, but municipalities may opt not to regulate certain activities at the local level, which is what we have right now. I will double check that for sure. So, that is my general observation about the statutes that relate to zoning, because it is a fair observation, but that is generally how it works. Go ahead, Alvin.
Yeah, you're correct, Tira. It's best to have it outlined here because you go into chapter 298. I mean, you have literally hundreds of pages. And it's just 16A-39 talks about what the local could regulate, and you've outlined it pretty much here.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. I did not author most of this. I just adapted this. In most cases, I simplified it because we have also tended to prefer a more streamlined language. This is our opportunity to say what's missing, as Ray identified a couple of things and Cindy identified something. Does anything make anybody uncomfortable in this language? Since we actually have so far gotten through it very quickly, do we want to talk about the potential for expanding into residential or agricultural uses? I would say stay away from agricultural. They get exempted from a lot anyway. But just based on, the observable fact that Cindy does get complaints about residential bad actors occasionally, is it worth the effort? Go ahead, Alvin.
Well, I was going to say as well, I mean, you want to stay away from agricultural and residential only because who's going to enforce it? I mean, Cindy would have to have 2 or 3 different people doing nothing but enforcing lighting on residential homes. I don't think so.
And as I recall, that was a similar rationale as to why whatever had been in prior editions of the zoning regulations on lighting were taken out. And definitely that was the case with noise, because we found that to be virtually impossible for one part-time CEO to manage or respond to. Lighting, I think, is a little simpler because if somebody really is leaving their lights on all night in the dark and the CEO gets a complaint during the day, she can choose to drive by a property at night. It's a little more observable in an objective sense. But to your point, that was part of why it came out in the first place. Go ahead, Reg.
I'd say 9 out of 10 times if somebody's got their light on, they probably don't even realize that it's bothering a neighbor if the neighbor's not gonna, go over and say something to them. That's half the problem in the world today is people don't communicate, and like Cindy said, that first person, once the guy found out that it was bothering them, they shut it off, and there was only one other one after that. So I agree with Alvin and just pretty much leave them 2 areas the way they are.
And that is more or less exactly what I thought the commission's response was going to be. I will say I have been privy to some of the complaints that have come in, and they are definitely not cases where the neighbor could go over and ask, or had gone over and asked and was treated at the very least rudely, if not worse. So the thought is that the regulation would be a backstop against, people who just refuse to be good neighbors. We certainly have our fair share of those, as do all towns, not just Thompson. Although certainly the majority of people do behave well, right? Regulations aren't really meant to capture people who are considerate. They're meant to capture and address the behavior of people who are not considerate. And as I said, this woman came in earlier this week and talked to both of us, and she, I would expect, is going to, at the October meeting, introduce that idea in citizens' comments for your consideration. And, you're welcome to discuss it generally with her at that time as well. Go ahead, Kais. You're on mute.
Sorry, yep. Sorry, I was trying to find the raise hand, but also trying to find the mute button. So just to backtrack, and I apologize. Are you limiting people on when they're residential on holiday lights?
No, we're
just
specific.
businesses.
We're specifically exempting residential properties and agricultural properties from all of this right now, period.
I mean, I meant because you were talking about Christmas lights and Halloween lights. So
Right. So even those uses are specifically exempted.
I agree with that.
For even the properties that this is meant to address. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly.
You got it. Any other thoughts here, guys? I mean, what is your feeling about this section? Is it something that you want to include in an annual amendment? Is it something that you don't want to include? Again, I don't really have a dog in this fight, other than to say, I know that this would be something that the Last Green Valley would highly favor because of their dark skies portion of what they do. And we have definitely heard some commentary from members of the public. Actually, I think notably Valerie, who, as you know, attends a lot of these and comments on a lot, about wanting to preserve the dark night skies particularly in the rural parts of town.
I think it makes sense to follow the last Green Valley. And the values of the town seem to support it, so seems like a good addition.
mm,
I never would have given this much thought as you were going through on that. I was thinking, do we need to hire a lighting engineer to review this? I'm being facetious on that, but
You mean, would we need to hire a lighting engineer to enforce it or to look at these,
well,
the
take your pick.
regulations?
Take your pick. Actually, to be serious, I think that we've got plenty of killed enough trees with what you read. We don't need to add more, any more than that, for sure.
Yeah, well, like I said, this is very condensed, the original templates, but in fairness, the original templates were meant to cover both regulations and ordinances, so those operate slightly differently. Go ahead, Kai's first and then Alvin, I think.
So just a quick question again, and I'm, would also you hold municipality facilities to the same standard?
And we can
and
see that we
or
have exempted these three
this-
uses.
Okay,
Emergency services, public safety,
perfect.
government uses, and
And then
holiday lighting.
School and building parking lots.
Well, that would fall under municipal.
Okay.
And then
then
raised
I-
flag poles, which if you'll pardon the pun,
Right.
the unintended pun, which I had not thought of.
No, that's fine. Something else, just thinking. Some people leave their lights on for security. How would you go about that?
So if it's a
business-wise?
residential property right now, there's nothing in a residential property of less than 4 units. So in other words, a single family home, a duplex or a triplex, if you leave your lights on all night, these regulations don't touch you. If you are a 4-plex or higher, the standards of these lights would apply, but you can, it does refer to exterior security lighting. Where we go here. All exterior lighting fixtures necessary for security purposes shall be activated by motion sensor devices that turn the light off after 15 minutes of no activity. So it does
Okay.
accommodate even in the applicable structures or applicable uses for lighting for security purposes.
Okay,
It's just got to be episodic. So it turns on when there's motion, 15 minutes of no
Okay.
activity, light turns off.
perfect. I do now that you say that, I do remember you saying that. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I mean, I read through it all at once. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a test. Go ahead, Alvin, and then Cindy's next.
Well, to Blackie's point, and I think we could add it too right in your, in the section there, 275, lighting standards. You could always put that in parentheses, chapter 298, section 16A-39. So anybody can go there and read it. And what you've got here is pretty much is what statute says. So let's say that a contractor comes in who's building some commercial thing, he could look at this and then go right to statute and make damn sure. It's just nice to have it here for the general population as well as even the Board of Appeals.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted you to read me slowly what the authorizing statute was. I will do that. I will add that something referring to the authorizing statutes in either intent or applicability.
Right, exactly.
What it
Go
goes,
ahead, Cindy.
go ahead, go ahead.
Well, to Randy's point too, you can have an engineer take a look at these regs to see, if they meet to standards that they'll be designing structures with lighting for. That's that's what I think we need an engineer for, just initially to look at these regulations.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I certainly would make the assumption that before the templates went out, they were reviewed by engineers, but of course, we don't just assume. So yes, I would have probably Janet take a look at these. She did help us with the lighting standards for subdivision, so. Kais, is that your hand up again, or is that just you didn't put your hand down?
I'm sorry, I forgot to put my hand down.
You don't have to be sorry, it's okay. JBL, I think you were waiting to comment.
I'm lowering it now.
I was just gonna piggyback off of Mr. Hill and Mr. Blackberry's, is that once we put the statue in and anybody wants to do something like a developer or whatever, there it is in front. We are following what the state says is what you can do, but as long as we have it in the regs, it's up to them. I mean, a lighting engineer, if you want to bring one in and to review it and say this is good and this is bad, it's going to end up, we're going to probably give it to let the developer look into it. Why should we I don't know, that to me is money being spent that we shouldn't have to spend on it. Let the developer or whatever come in and let them tell us, yeah, we're going to go by the state statutes, you got this, we're happy with it. I mean, that's my thought.
Right. Well, if you're talking about, let's assume for a moment that these are adopted.
Correct.
If what you're saying is once these are adopted, if we would be having an engineer look at lighting plans, the answer is no. Or if we did, it would be at the cost to the applicant, as we have articulated in other places, right? If the commission is seeking additional information from an applicant, the provision of that information is supposed to be at the applicant's cost. We have articulated that several places.
I think this gives us a place to start. I can't for the life of me come up with an example where somebody would have a big problem with this, but I'm sure that it will, no matter how strict we get, somebody will come in. And I would think that if somebody came into the commission with a real reason why they needed to go outside of these regulations for lighting, that we could, and we agreed with it, we could issue a waiver on that particular thing. But this gives a place to start.
Well, if it was something that became adopted and they wanted to go outside the parameters, actually they would go to ZBA for the variance.
Well, we could recommend to ZBA that they do it, but this, whoever issues it, is that possibility for the one thing in 1,000 that may be called on to do that. There is the possibility of getting a waiver, whether it's from ZBA or when we're doing looking at a subdivision plan and there's we decide we make the waiver on a sidewalk, we don't make that go to ZBA, right?
That's true, but you have specific language which governs the waivers for sidewalks. And in fact, it's much clearer and specific now since we redid the subdivision regulations.
So that wasn't a good example, but I think that if there's a real reason somebody needs to go outside of what you read, there'd be a way to address that, and if it seemed reasonable, and if somebody's doing it just to piss off the neighbors, we don't have to grant it, or we can refuse to consider it. Or I guess maybe I've said more than I should have.
No, that I would call that, Randy, burden of proof. He has to prove it. He has to prove to us that he needs that waiver or whatever, but you know, like you just said, you're gonna get this 1 out of 1,000 come in and knock on the door, and you know, and all of a sudden it throws everything upside down. We're kind of going through that a little bit now on some stuff, but that's called burden of proof. Prove it to us. Like me, prove it to me that I can.
I'm saying the regulations, the way you read them are, and with Ray's recommendations is a good place to start, and there's nothing that says these can't be changed next year if we find out that we're way wrong.
Which is the purpose of this annual review process for sure.
That's correct.
So I believe that I'm hearing general consensus that we should continue with this in the next version of the draft, which is where I'm gonna go back, look at everything that we came to consensus on, sort of indicate that, and then highlight the areas where we know we still have discussion to do, right? And that's our second go round. So it does sound to me like everybody's okay with this. Go ahead, Cindy.
Go ahead.
Well, let's finish with this. I do want to make time to bring something else up.
Go ahead.
That's kind of important. So, you know, when we're finished with this, then you can call on me to bring it up. How about that?
I was going to bring up one thing tangentially from this that I think related to something Randy was just bringing up, and then why don't we go to your point? So to your point, Randy, and I think this is something that Cindy has found vexing on some applications, particularly ones that are site review by commission, as we've determined the use requires, but maybe the full list of what those requirements are, they're not always applicable. And I don't have specific language here, but just as something to think about, and would you be okay with me introducing into the next version of the draft some sample language that gives the ZEO the right to determine whether a specific element is needed in the site plan review? Because it's definitely a conversation she and I have had on some applications where she says, well, I don't understand why this would be required for this kind of use, but it says that it's got site plan review. And I think that that's a reasonable observation on her part. So that's my other question to the commission. In the next draft, would you be comfortable with me introducing that language?
In other words, authorizing Cindy to bend the line a little bit if she thinks that it's reasonable.
To determine whether all of the requested documentation or information or whatever for a site plan review by commission is applicable.
I think she's done a good job on looking at some of those issues so far, and I would certainly give her more rope, as long as she doesn't try and hang herself.
How do you feel about that, Cindy?
No, I agree with that, and I especially after this recent experience that people are going through, I would be a lot tougher. Yeah, I don't think that I would skirt something that is necessary for the commission members to know to consider that application for the use that they want to use. So, you know, I'm comfortable with saying, yeah, I have more leeway, but with everybody knowing that myself and the next person that would follow me would say, you know, I'm gonna request this, you know, for everybody's protection.
Are you
So
referring to the Hill Road situation?
no, I'm referring to Thompson Road, which is something I'm going to be bringing up, which I want to talk about something on that.
Is that what you want to talk about now, Cindy?
Yes, I would like to. I know that I did an update for you on the two issues on 454, which was the old Agway and that storage garage there. And then, of course, the Monte Bianco. We did not have time to address it, and it's gotten 100% worse. So what I'm looking for, because I wrote the final cease and desist and in communication with Amy, 10 days, and then it goes to a citation, which involves a citation officer, which is another part, which a citation officer has to be hired by, appointed by the selectmen. In all my research for writing up a letter that I know has to be perfectly legal, and all my research, the ordinance does not have a fee for zoning violation, and our regulations do not have a fee for zoning violation. Presently, the only thing I can fall back on in the town for a violation is unregistered vehicles. So I did some exploring, try to do exploring in the state statutes, and as I had one attorney agree with me today, which happens to be the attorney for the landlord of 1097 Thompson Road. He agreed that the state statutes are so wishy-washy. One part says something, another part says another thing that contradicts it. Anyway, bottom line is, I went to the state statute. I could not find where a zoning commission has the right to, if they don't have it in their regulations, that the state says, here's what you can find. But I went to our Bible, what's legally required. Believe it's chapter 21, page 210, something about the violations. And there is a paragraph in there that says, oh, you can fine up to $2,500, and starting at 100, willful or unwillful to 250. No state statute to refer to. So I took that and I sent it over to Rich Roberts today and say, hey, can you make my life easy? Do you know the state statute this is referring to? So my whole point here is, could you consider doing a fine in our regulations, or do you want the town to do that in their ordinances for zoning?
Fine for what?
I actually
Fine for
think I know-
violations.
I actually think I know the answer to that, Cindy, although we may have to discuss it in the office. I believe if you're acting as the citation officer is governed by the ordinance, which means it would have to refer back to the table of fees in the Code of Ordinances.
There's no fee for zoning violations in the table of fees in the ordinances.
So that would mean they would have to amend their table of fees.
Exactly.
But since the authority to issue the citation and the fee in this instance flows from the citation officer ordinance, I believe, and we can discuss this more, but I believe that's where that has to be.
Oh, I agree that it should be in the ordinance as opposed to the regulation. Yes. Yes. It's a fee, but is the town going to pass, townspeople going to pass that?
If it's the table of fees as an appendix, and this is the same with our own table of fees in the zoning regulations, the appendices do not require going to town meeting.
Okay, good. Okay.
So that's something the Board of Selectmen can amend on their own.
Okay.
Likewise with us in our table of fees. That's why they're structured that way. So in this case, I can actually answer the question directly.
So answer the question directly. How? Where am I going to get my reference for fees? That's my bottom line.
So it's got to be the table of fees, and the Code of Ordinances needs to be amended to include the citation officer's ability to levy a zoning fee.
Okay, it's still confusing because the state says that they have a section that says it. So I'll wait till Rich Roberts answers me. I just want to let you know that this is an issue. I have never imposed a fee on anybody in 6 years. I actually don't think I did it when I was in Putnam either. So yeah, okay. But you will be getting a report on all of this at the end at your October meeting.
Okay. And if it turns out that I am incorrect, if Rich gives you different information, we will certainly defer to Rich.
Yeah.
But I've had this conversation a couple of times. I mean, more than a couple of times with Amy, with our attorney, blah, 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 with the Code of Ordinances people. And it's always come to the same conclusion. Ray, go ahead. I thought I saw your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I put it back down. I had a couple different things. I just wanted to bring that up to Cindy. I know you're working down there and stuff, but I got at least 5 phone calls in the last week of people on Porter Plain Road that's almost got clipped because of him parking that box truck along Thompson Road there. You can't see coming out of Porter Plain Road. And
Can I respond to that, Ray?
sure.
Okay, Amy called the state police to see if they could do it, and they said it's private property.
Right,
Since
I
it's
kind of
on a-
figured
oh,
that, you know.
I'm not finished. Since it's on a state highway, we said, well, let's call the state. And they said it's on private property. So this violation letter that I have, which mentions that, is going to the state police, a copy, and it's going to the enforcement in the DOT. I will underline it and say who is responsible for this. That's all we can do.
Yep, yeah, I know you've been working. I've talked to you about this. I just
Yeah.
wanted to let you know that they said that. And then I got
Yeah.
another thing to piggyback on what Randy was saying about giving you a little more rope. And if we put that in the regulations and somebody comes in after you, we can always tighten the rope up on them and take it back out. Then, you know, if somebody comes in to take this position when you're done with it and we're not trusting them, we could always take that part out of the regulations and not give them as much rope as you have.
Good idea.
Yeah, I mean, the commission always has, as we always say, we adopted this as a best practice for a reason. And although that particular instance might not have been one of the specific reasons, it is to always be responsive to, you know, the evolving needs of the community, the town, the commission, the staff, whatever. That's precisely what this annual review is for. Does anybody have anything else? We've been just about an hour out of our given 2 hours, but I'm not hearing a lot of controversy about the section that we've discussed. And then I obviously have work to do to create the second pass draft. Go ahead, Cindy.
I just want to give a shout out to our tax collector. We were talking about the person who's doing all these violations, not the property owner. And he actually got me an address today to mail the information to him too. So I thought that was great that he got that information for me. So so we are working together in the town hall.
Are you looking for another issue that I want to discuss, or?
No,
Well, do you have something to introduce, Randy? Because this is a perfect time to do so.
Well, I don't have it in writing, but at our public hearing well, I guess it's not gonna come up this meeting because I'm talking about the property at the end of Route 12 on the Mass line. And I was not correct in the way I interpreted the requirement for gravel permit to move material around, and for whoever it is that's putting that building up wants the permission to grade the lot, and we gotta go through wetlands, so that slows it down, so we won't have it this meeting, but
I'm pretty
think
sure
that-
Cindy just raised her hand because that's a public hearing. Right, Cindy?
yes,
and I'm not concerned about that. I mean, what we do on that one is gonna take place, and what I have to suggest, I'm not looking to change it now. But what was brought up on that was the yardage that was being moved. And it was pointed out that agriculture can move any amount of material around without any problem, and without getting a permit, a gravel permit. And I think that we should look into fixing it so that when somebody, if they're moving material around in the yard, that shouldn't count toward the requirement or the total tonnage being moved. And I guess my question to Cindy is, my reasoning thinking that we should do that is, I'll use Donovan Drive as an example. I don't have a clue how many yards of material they've moved around, but I'm willing to bet it's a hell of a lot more than 1,500 yards that commands a gravel permit. And I don't think that, I haven't seen one. Maybe there was a gravel permit issued for moving material around there, but that probably said all I need to for tonight.
Okay, it's
Want me-
enough to give me a note to drop to myself, Randy, which is
Mm.
great. Go
Do you
ahead.
want me
Cindy.
to? Yeah. So, in relationship, I believe there's something in the regulations about new construction, so I would have to look into that one in reference to Donovan Drive. In reference to this, because it's 1,500 square cubic yards, and he is having someone come in and remove it, some of it, because he had contracted out, and then we got him just in time before he had to, was committed to that person on that particular property in Riverside. That is coming up. The public hearing was opened. We re-listened to the minutes,
Yep.
to the recording.
Well, I
The
thought it
minutes
was
are-
set
the
aside
minutes
till the Wetlands Commission did
Well-
the walk, and I see they've got that scheduled for early November, which won't,
Well, can I finish though?
yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that.
That's all right. So we listened to the recording, both Daniel Blanchett and then I finally listened to the recording. And it did open, a motion was made to open. What happened with that motion, which should have never happened, and I could say this, what happened with that motion is everybody started, not everybody, there was a few comments before the vote. Technically, you should make a motion to accept it for a public hearing for the following month. And then just vote on it. But there was a gap between the motion and the actual vote. So yes, it was voted to accept it for a public hearing for October. So you will be having a public hearing on that issue in October. But it still remains, Randy, going back to your point on wetlands, that wetlands probably will not be finished with it. So it still has to go to November. Daniel, and I said, just let it go the way I originally did it. He said no, because he wants it open so he can do some discussions. So I made the adjustments and you will be having a public hearing on 15-something Riverside Drive for the
Okay.
gravel operation.
Okay,
Any questions?
My point was that brought that to my attention that, and the comment was made about he was gonna move more than 1,500 yards. Some of it was going out, some of it was being moved around in the yard. And I think that our regulation should be that if it's being moved out, I can see that. If it's just being graded in the yard on not necessarily that site, but any project, that doesn't count against the 1,500 yards.
I agree with you. I do.
And I think that we have to change the regulations because or word that somehow so it comes closer to matching the way it's worded for agriculture under that specific section.
Okay.
yeah, I think I've got enough there, Randy, to look at it and try to tighten that up. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be quiet now.
You don't ever have to be quiet because of me. All right, we're just about an hour even. Now Santos just texted me to say that finance is taking forever, so he's probably not coming in. Unless anybody thinks there's something else in the topic that we were discussing, or well, no, let's leave it to that. The topic that we were discussing, because we will obviously have the meeting coming up in October, and I suspect that at that meeting, there will be some public comment related to proposed changes. So let's let that ride until then. So if there's
So-
anything on
So
tonight's
what are you
topic,
talking, what are you talking about in October? I don't understand.
I
at
think
our-
we can anticipate there's going to be some public comment on more than one topic from members of the community with suggested amendments. But since they haven't been suggested formally to the commission yet, let's just let that ride until they are introduced.
Okay, so you mean the October 28th meeting?
That's what I mean, yes.
Okay, all right. I thought you were gonna be throwing in another meeting.
No,
for
no,
the subcommittee.
no. This was the only extra night I had in October to
Well,
do
me
one
too.
of these. Yeah, so,
Okay,
yes, yes. So we can expect another subcommittee meeting in November. But I probably won't be able to send out anything to schedule that until I get back from vacation the first Monday in November. We're not in a hurry. It's okay. We're not in a hurry.
Okay.
We'll work it out. So again, any other comments on tonight's topic of discussion?
I do not have any more. I think what we just did tonight, we should just move it on and then deal with it when we bring it out to make the big changes.
Okay, sounds good to me. JBL, would you like to call for a motion?
No, I'm not. I got a couple things I'd like to say before I close this meeting, if that's.
All righty then. You go right ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. Just to let all the commissioners know that I've been doing my homework for the last 2.5 weeks. And it all has to do with this cannabis stuff. And it has become a big subject, as well as the second subject that we need to really dive into. And it has to do with the minimal acreage in the zones. So something we really gonna have to look at, but the cannabis is a big thing right now. It's a hot topic, and I think we need to get our act together on it. I did go to the library, and I got the okay for us to use the library till 9 o'clock and do subcommittees there. They were welcome yet. And I think this is something we need to do, and it will be a face-to-face subcommittee, not a Zoom, not to take anything away, but we'll have to do it. It's got to be done. We have to do it. And the public can sit in, listen, do whatever they want, but if they want to send, what do you call it, your hands up or comments to the CEO or the P&D, they can by sending it to their email address, or come to the thing and we'll take it and then we'll review every comment that comes our way. But I just want to see what you ladies and gentlemen want to do. Speak up or forever hold your.
John.
Okay, so
I agree.
John,
Hold
before this goes any further, before
Well-
this topic goes any further, I was not going to address this until the October regular meeting, but
Well,
since it has now come up, I now feel I have to. I
Go
am
ahead.
aware that correspondence was sent to the commission in an improper manner on this topic of cannabis. It's not your fault that it came to you in an improper manner, nor is it really the fault of the people who sent it. We do not expect them to understand. That correspondence put the commission in the position of being in jeopardy of holding an illegal online meeting if anybody replied directly in that. Communication and correspondence to the commission should only ever be addressed to staff or the chair and then be brought forward as correspondence in a public meeting. It puts you guys in a very bad position when you are communicating directly with members of the public outside the forum of the public meeting. So I'm only telling you that because, as you know, I feel very protective of you guys and your reputation and integrity. So just before this topic goes any further.
I'm not gonna disagree with you, Tara, but I'm just bringing it up because, I haven't communicated with any of the people, but like you said, I got the email, I looked at it and I go, what, you gotta be kidding me. But it has become a hot topic, and I found, and I did some research with Michigan and Massachusetts and California and everything, all about this whole thing of how the states those states are handling and everything. And I found out in the state of Connecticut, there are 29 towns that are already rejecting or will not allow cannabis growth in their town. Just to give you a heads up, I'm not exactly sure what towns have come up with it, but it was a number was given to me. It was 29. So, like I said, I am for somebody that wants to have a small business. I get it, but the applicant did his thing, and the neighbors did their thing. So we need to figure out how we're going to handle this, or what path that needs to be taken on it, and it's not going to go away. So,
all right. Well, when the chairman returns as well, this is something that the officers and staff can discuss. But again, before we go any further with sort of compounding one impropriety with another, let's wait until, and that was what I was obliquely referring to
yeah,
in what I'm expecting to hear in public comment at the open public meeting. I mean, this is a public meeting, obviously, but we don't take public comment here.
well,
So that's why I want to hold that until that's brought forth in a more proper fashion.
Kira, I think the other point was that he wants to hold the meeting at the library as opposed to doing it on Zoom on the future subcommittee on the other.
I understand that is part of his point, but that call is something that the officers and the chair, the officers with the chair when he gets back from business travel, and the staff should discuss logistically. There is a reason that we do the subcommittee meetings online. It's so we can do the background work so that we can present the public, right, in the public forums with a more intelligent draft. The members of the public are always welcome to send their comments and observations to staff. That's to Cindy and to me, right? Because when they come in a written format to us, we have the complete freedom as staff to review them, see if they hold legal water, if language is being suggested, have that sort of semi-drafted before it comes up in a public meeting, right? So that by the time the public sees it, you've had a chance to deliberate on it without sort of background noise. That's why we do these on Zoom. Now,
you can
as
also
officers
bring your
and staff,
laptop to the meeting, and we could do the same thing in person. I don't know. I personally think it's a good idea, but you have an option to go on Zoom. It's an option, but you can do whatever you want.
well, it's a topic that the officers and staff should discuss for logistics. And then you can bring it to the committee in a meeting. We can decide in a meeting with everybody. Go ahead, Ray.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you, it seems to me that for this topic, I think we ought to do it in a sit-down meeting too. I think it'd be much better off, but what's going to go on for that meeting. To have a sub meeting instead of doing it this way, to do it in person.
It's a totally fair topic for discussion. All I'm suggesting is hold the discussion in a full public meeting with your full membership, right? So you've got, what do we have? We have 2 of the 3 officers. We don't have Brian. We don't have Krogel. We don't have, who else is missing? Poplawski, who's even though he's an alternate, is one of your strongest deliberative contributors in the discussions. So that's all I'm suggesting. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't do it one way or another. I am pointing out that we do the subcommittee meetings in this format for a reason. But if the commission at large, and I would suggest it should go to a vote, which you can't do in a subcommittee meeting,
No,
then I would just raise the topic at the October meeting, discuss it out in the open, right? And then you've got more of your membership there to contribute to the decision.
all I was doing is taking the initiative so we could have more faces at a subcommittee and discuss what we feel is important issues. And I went to the library on my own for that reason. So we have an option, because it's sometimes difficult to have a meeting, say a face-to-face meeting, so of that at the town hall, because you got all these other commissions and stuff going on taking up certain nights and everything. At least the library will give us an open space to deal with this stuff. And I just presenting it so everybody's got an idea, and I'm not trying to overstep anybody, but it's coming to the point where subcommittees are open to the public, but it's only discussions of the commission members only. And even though we take and have the minutes done and all this other stuff, but it's strictly subcommittee, is just members of the committee, a regular commission, that can only do this discussion or speaking. But again, the public has a right to send the email in, like you just said, to you, so you guys can review it, and then you give it to us and we hash it out. That's what this is all about. I'm just trying to get it to go that way a little bit, because there's some issues, Tara and Cynthia, that I feel that a face-to-face with the commissioners themselves to sit there and hash this out. Even if it's one item or two items, we got the time to do it, and it's given us the time to do it. The hours to 9 o'clock, if we're out of there by 9, that is acceptable. That's all I did, was to find out if we can do it, and it was well received.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you, JBL. Go ahead, Randy.
Good question, Tara. I assume everybody else got an envelope from 210 Hill Road today? Is it
No.
okay to open and read that?
I would recommend that you bring that correspondence to the office.
Okay.
Because the
Randy,
problem with outside communicate, so you guys are supposed to be neutral arbiters, right? And anytime you're communicating directly with anybody who has an interest, whether it's an in favor or an against interest on any particular topic that either is on your agenda or is highly likely to be on an upcoming agenda, if there's any perception that any of you could have had that outside the public meeting conversation, your personal emails become foilable, right? Your entire personal email can be subject to a Freedom of Information Act request if you're using it for town business. And that is, trust me, a nuisance you do not want to have to go through. And you would be subject to turning it over. And if there was credible belief that anybody on this commission, whether for or against any application that came up, had been influenced to absolutely make a decision, again, for or against, doesn't matter, you would have to recuse yourself from discussion of that application. I was going to bring all this up in the meeting on Monday, but the topic has been raised. So I'm just telling you this because I am very protective of your integrity as volunteer elected officials. I don't want you to accidentally do anything that compromises your ability to do the job you were elected to do. Go ahead, Ray, I see your hand.
Well, people come up to us as commissioners, bringing up stuff that every one of us at any different time, they come up for something that's going on in their neighborhood and ask, you know, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? That happens.
I know they do, Ray, and we've actually been to workshop. Actually, when I was a commissioner, I went to a workshop on this. So 6 years ago, when that happens, even though what you really want to do is help, and I understand that what you really want to do is help, what you have to say is you have to either address that in writing to the staff who will distribute it as correspondence in a meeting packet, or they should just come in and talk to staff. There are plenty of questions that Cindy and I can clear. And if it's something that is inappropriate for anybody to discuss, we also, you know, are in the position where we can say that. I totally understand, because you're members of the community wanting to have those direct conversations, but they put you in a position through no fault of your own or the person asking you the question directly of potentially having your decisions overturned on appeal, being subject to other kinds of lawsuits, depending on the type of inquiry. Do I generally think it will rise to that level? No, I do not. But it is best practice, if you are approached directly by any member of the community, particularly on an upcoming agenda item, that those inquiries be routed through staff. Cindy and I don't vote on things, right? That's part of our role in staff, is to be your non-voting advisors, and also to be able to speak freely with the public about what the regulations mean, what statutory authority comes through. And we also generally know the guardrails for what things we can't discuss at all. So it's just protective of you to do that.
I just tell everybody to call Cindy, but so
And
you're
that's
welcome,
fine.
Cindy, for all them phone calls. But
Yeah, Cindy is fine. I'm fine. Margaret's fine. Whomever.
But you know, I got one guy that keeps calling me, asking me what he can do about the shed on the right of way to get to his property on Schoolhouse Pond. You know, the guy. You know, I told him not even to call me anymore about it. But
Well, that's right. That you did exactly the right thing by doing that, by directing him to the zoning enforcement officer and saying politely, you can't take that call directly as a member of the commission.
But you know, different people call. You know, like I say, every one of us get questions from people, and if people are saying they don't, then I think they're either not owning up to it, or the people don't trust to ask them or something. I don't know. But
no, I think you're absolutely right, Ray. I think I don't just think, I know that each one of you has received direct comments, questions from the public. I'm not saying anybody hasn't. What I'm saying is, when you get those, no matter how much you empathize or want to serve that person by providing the answer has got to root through Cindy or me or Meg or whomever the appropriate staff member is, because we can't be compromised as non-voting, not members of the commission, obviously, but people who sit with and advise the commission, right? We have no vote to compromise.
Right.
You guys do.
Okay, one quick question. Did Cindy or Tara, did you get a letter from an envelope from 210 Hill Road in the office today? If not, I'll
No.
bring mine down tomorrow.
No, yes, please do. So I just want to sort of add a little bit to what Tara said, is that if you take these, you could take phone calls, people, or if you see some in the grocery store that has a beep, and Ray, your answer is right. Call the office. The emphasis is, especially if you have applications on your agenda,
Correct.
that more than two people, you cannot do that. You cannot discuss it. So
That is correct, Cynthia.
okay.
And I didn't mean to go on so long about that,
No,
guys, but
no, no,
it
no.
was starting to make me very uncomfortable. What I knew was floating around, which was not sent to staff. That is, that puts everybody in a very poor position. So yeah, Randy, Cindy's not in tomorrow, but I am, so go ahead.
Oh,
and
I
copy
am.
that
I'm
down.
coming in tomorrow because I didn't work Monday.
Oh,
This is-
okay, all right, fair
I'll
enough.
be in tomorrow.
But that's why I did that, Tara, is so we got a, what we call an ace in a hole. Because if we do not try to make things better for ourselves, to show the public that we are listening, we're doing what we think is right, what to the best, like you said, as an elected official, but the people sometimes think that they can just send a letter or come talking to us. I got people calling me or seeing me and talking to me. Yup. Go see Cynthia. Or I'll call her and I'll have her give you a call. Give me your phone number and I'll have her call you. That's the only way to do it. You know what I mean? Like you said, we could end up being compromised or whatever. It's starting to get a little tiresome. That's all. You know what I mean? We're trying our best. All of us elected officials, the staff, we're doing our best. And I'm just getting frustrated. It's getting out of hand.
That's all right. It's okay to express the frustrations. I think we've beaten this horse well beyond its death.
Yeah. Well, the door is open and the options are there now, Tara. That's what I'm saying. And we have the ability. Let's use it one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. But it's still going to be up to the commissioners, to decide if they want to do a face-to-face or not. Like I said, I'm just bringing it to the table. And
Fair enough. Anybody else got anything, my friends and colleagues? Randy, you just took yourself off mute. Does that mean you have parting words?
I'm good.
I had words while you were talking. I had another side conversation on something else.
Oh, well, say hi to Murdy for us.
Say hi.
Would you like to call for a motion, Mr. Acting Chairman?
Move we adjourn.
Randy Blackmer makes the motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ryan? Second?
Yes.
Okay. There is no discussion, so the meeting, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Hearing none, meeting is now adjourned at
23.
8:23. Thank you. I couldn't see the little number here. Sorry.
That's okay.
And I
Guys, as always, thank you for your good work. The next time I see you as a group will be on the 28th. Just a reminder, I'm actually on vacation that week, so I will be coming in just for the meeting, and that meeting is at the library because of early voting.
We're proud of you for making your vacation shorter and getting in.
That's all. I'll take it out of you guys in some other way later.
Night.
No.
Bye, everyone.
Night.
Good night.